times they make you feel like you're very big. And then after this, they go start bullying you outside in the village where you come from. Then you wonder. In Nairobi, we were looking like I was a very big person. Now in the village, I'm the small kid that you're punishing and walking around with. But well, that is what life is all about. The experiences, the moments, and what we do all together. So, in a way, I have 2 tasks today, but I'm glad that most of you guys have actually done one of them. It's a regulatory affairs networking cocktail, which is an opportunity for us to get to know each other, get to experience what we do as APN, but also most importantly, build connections that will walk us to the next level. And to a greater extent, what is the critical bit and the gist of what we are doing here is the fact that in one way or the other, we've touched each other's lives, and there are people who have touched our lives. I would start from here, the youngest in the room. We met in 2016. I didn't even know what I was going to do. We were in JKUAT, in the village. Unfortunately, I came to Nairobi, I found myself in Juja. So that is how life is. Finished schooling, started my electives. That's where I met Neha. I was doing my electives at Cosmos. And from there, we've never left that relationship. At least the conversation has been ongoing. From there, I went to Kapi, met Angeline, met...
This is Neha, this is
No, met Dina. I met Dina in Cosmos, met Neha in Kapi, Miano, and the journey has been going all along. And I think for all that we're able to do is because of the people who have held our hands, has directed us to the right path, and made a difference in our journeys. And somebody mentioned that actually I got out of school, I'm not so sure what RA is, and what does it mean to be in the RA space. As David, when I was getting out of school, did I know whether I've been to the regulatory affairs space? Never crossed my mind. But then luckily enough, through the right people guiding me, probing me, and getting me the information, I was like, well, I want to give it a try, and I got into the regulatory affairs space, and it's been a good journey. I will tell you that I've enjoyed my presence in the RA space, and I don't think I'm leaving anytime soon. I'm still going to be in that space. But just to add to it is the fact that I didn't know, and I was asking myself, and that was after, we are among the people who didn't get the automatic posting. And the question is, what are you doing next with your life, right? And it's a constant question, and when the opportunities are coming in regulatory affairs, you're doing an interview and you don't even know what a dossier is. How can you pass that interview, honestly? I failed some, but now here we are. And that is the basis as to why we started offering the course and saying, if all of us were to come into the space and get to a situation where we don't know what regulatory affairs looks like, what it entails, then what future are we making? We have people who have been in the industry for more than enough years, right? But then there's no that insight where somebody can learn about it. So let's put a platform, let's design a course that will ensure that the person leaving school tomorrow has somewhere where they can know what regulatory affairs is. And in the process then, in their next opportunity they are hoping for, they'll have an opportunity to get a job because at least they know. Rather than being into the deep end and you know nothing about what you're going to do. It's a challenging thing. And we're hoping we're able to make that happen for all of us. We're able to network. And I know there are people that have called. I know, Angeline, I've called you a couple of times. So what do we do about this? That was the initial days. At least I'm getting better. I still call people, but we're making the best of it. So that is the role one. You've already, I used your examples to explain the role one that I had today. Role two, what's African Pharmaceutical Network? Why African Pharmaceutical Network? And what's the way forward for us as African Pharmaceutical Network? We are actually a young organization. We started our operations officially in 2020, June. And that was the conceptualization of the idea. 2020, 14th February, first COVID case announced in Kenya, right?
No,
It was March, yes.
but that was Valentine's Day.
Oh, it was delayed.
Yeah.
So around 19th March or thereabout. So we had COVID in Kenya, right? But with COVID, what was the constant conversation? Africa, the impact of this particular outbreak is going to be catastrophic, right? Disaster. People are going to die in the streets, people are going to do what? All that. But at the same thing, by the virtue that science has evolved over time, we all knew that science can play a role in how we respond and how we get out of this particular pandemic. And what was the role of science? From the social aspect in terms of social distancing, prevention and all that, there was social science in that. Then on the other end, we were looking at development of therapeutics, vaccines, diagnostics and all that, which was a key starting point. So we're going to develop vaccines. Who are the people going to develop them? Who are the people going to develop the medicines that we're going to use, or even repurpose the ones that were already existing? Then we look at the diagnostic. Before you even know there is COVID, how do we diagnose it? The diagnostics needed to be there. Are we going to go for the advanced one or point of care ones that are going to be accessible to people where they are? So all those conversations were there. But one of the key bits that actually was a challenge to me and my colleagues when we were having this conversation was, everybody's talking about Africa. Where are the technical people who work in these spaces, who do this work, who bring these new solutions, and actually ensure the access is a guarantee to the people at the last mile of that solution where it needs to happen? We were not much engaged in it. We had policymakers, we had businessmen, we have the international community driving the conversation. So the question was, how do we get stakeholders within the African pharmaceutical value chain to play an active role to shape the future of what we hope for, and ensure that whatever the technical experts and the players within the ecosystem could share would make a difference and an impact in the ecosystem in the long term. Maybe not for COVID-19 in 2020 when we started the idea, but 20 years from now, there will be something that will be massive, that will ensure that something sustainable, something impactful comes out of it. And the ideation was driven to an extent by the World Economic Forum. We know that every year, leaders of the world will meet in Davos, Switzerland, right? And when they meet, they set the agenda of what global conversations, global investment priorities will be. Now everybody's talking about climate change. We know the impact of it, we've known all along. Why are we investing now? Because somebody who understands the dynamics and is at the leadership level sets the agenda, then we find a way to shape that agenda and move it forward. We're hoping APN can get to that level. But in the immediate moment, and that's formed the basis. For us to do that, we need competent professionals and technical persons who understand the nuances around it. The only way we will do that is either through learning, through sharing of experiences, and knowledge across the industry where we are. That is an aspiration. So can we ensure that we have this conversation? That is also going to be part of the discussion that we're having today. We'll have keynote speakers who will be sharing their experiences around regulatory harmonization and reliance for health product security, because that is the baseline. Then beyond the people doing the work who are knowledgeable enough, we work in a regulated ecosystem, therefore then we need to ensure that the policies, the regulatory frameworks and tools are responsive to the needs of the market, but they are also not killing innovation in the process. But they are safeguarding the interest of the public, right? And that is a key priority that we need to ensure that is there. Then it means the technical persons, when you're talking with yourself as a regulatory affairs professional, are you going to wait for a guideline to be published, then you follow it? Or are you going to influence the guideline to ensure that it meets what you are hoping for? Because if you wait, you will get a guideline that does not meet your requirements. Imagine you're developing a gene therapy and it's being evaluated as paracetamol. It can't work, because the requirements and the development processes are totally different. And those are the concerns that we need to shape policies, shape regulatory instruments, and make that future possible. Then the last bit, they have not seen where a government started an innovation and maintained it to the end, right? And even here, most of us who are working, majority are within the private sector. So we need an enabling business ecosystem, in the sense that the companies have the resources, they have the technical people, and the additional ancillary services that are available in the ecosystem can make it viable for them to thrive, can make it viable for them to deliver the solution that they need to deliver. If that happens, we'll have a successful future for all of us. And in a way, that is an overview of a slide in terms of the priorities of what we're focusing on. And how we deliver on it is, one, we have the regulatory affairs course when you look at the workforce development aspect. So some of the trainings, and actually we have 3 trainings that are now in the finalization, 2 additional ones, but 1 in the initial phase. Regulatory affairs has been there, and we have cohort 1 are people who have taken the cohort 1 of 2024. But we have another cohort starting in May for the regulatory affairs training. We have another course, pharmacovigilance and patient safety, And it will be more on vigilance on medical products and technologies, because also there's post-market surveillance for medical devices, in vitro diagnostics and related products within the ecosystem that might have an impact on patient well-being. Then we have pharmaceutical supply chain management, and one of the key unique aspects that we try to put into our courses, you don't learn theory and just know the theory from the book knowledge. We need somebody who is giving you experience, and even for those who saw the adverts when we were recruiting for the other courses, at least 2 to 3 years of practical experience. So when you're telling me this is a dossier, you've seen it, you've not downloaded ICH guidelines and modules on dossiers. I reviewed them and I read them before my first interview. My friend, that is Greek and French talking in the same room. So anyway, so that is where we are, and we're hoping we're able to do that training as much as it is. In the regulatory affairs space, to a greater extent, we also support in terms of service delivery, and we have some of our people we're trying to engage across the markets, and I'm glad that you're talking about clinical trials. We also do some work in that space, not fully within APN, but in terms of our alliances and also insight gathering and intelligence that we support with. But the next phase is, how do we make it as robust as possible? And when you go, there's a slide actually, when you're talking about African landscape and all that, African Pharmaceutical Network, we started in Kenya, but our hope is to grow as much as possible. And the first growth strategy that we had for this year is to expand our wings. You can move to the map where we have it. To expand our wings, and what we've tried doing in that space, this is the map of Africa, map of the world, but Africa where we have blue, at least there's a presence. And when you talk about presence, in Kenya we are majority because that is where we started. We have presence in Rwanda, presence in Tanzania and Uganda. Then for all the other blue countries, at least we have 2-3 people that we engage with wherever somebody seeks any support who wants to engage on any of the things that we do. And we are hoping that in that process, we're able to expand our wings, make our offering reach as many people as possible, but also make a difference so that at the end of the day, we don't ask ourselves what happened. We'll say we made it happen because we believe that it was possible. And because of that belief and the people holding each other's hands and being able to walk the journey together, we made it a reality. And that is all that we are hoping for. For those of you who are not members of APN, we urge you to join us, engage and be part of the network with us. Let's walk this journey together. For those who need our services, like my colleague who is talking about clinical trial space and all that, we'd be glad to partner and see how do we deliver value to you, but also how do we ensure that the services that you offer makes an impact in the ecosystem, because we can't do it alone. We need to partner with each other and make it a successful story for all of us.